just here to talk about some of the things that you've experienced over the years with ADHD. And I want to start off by asking about where did you realize you were ADHD?
Well, I wasn't diagnosed till I was in my early 40s, actually.
Yeah.
But right from the get-go, there was always something a little strange, a little different, and I always just had my quirks. Our family call it the tism because everyone's got a little bit of something, I believe.
Yeah.
But it really wasn't a diagnosed thing when I was a kid. People didn't have it unless you were climbing the walls and off the chart. And particularly that was generally boys that happened to.
Yeah.
With people like myself and you as well, probably, it was more put down to you're just not trying hard enough. You're just naughty.
I got daydreamer. Did you ever get daydreaming? But then I'm the non-hyperactive.
I just got naughty and I became naughty. I got really good at naughty.
Did you find that when you were being naughty, and I do remember moments of being really naughty, and actually I got good at being naughty as well, I relate to that it would speed your brain up?
Being naughty was a stage that I took myself to because I was told all the time, you're just being naughty. You're not doing what you're meant to be doing because you're being disruptive and non-compliant.
Yeah.
But I didn't get what they were saying and why I was doing things incorrectly to their pathways and how they saw things, because it was just completely different to me. My mind was just always going 10 steps ahead of where they were even 2 minutes ago. I'm like, haven't we done that? And everything seemed to be on a different platform from where I was.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally. I struggled to slow myself down. So I was trying to recalibrate myself, and I'd go off into a daydream because if I think about my school days where they start off talking on something, it would just turn into a background hum very quickly because I'd already figured out the conclusion. And then when I got into the workforce, I realized that I was leaping ahead way faster than anyone else. And that most of the time I was right.
Yeah, I had some similar aspects to that, but I had a bit of a different journey because I had dyslexia at the same time.
Yeah.
So I found whatever they were trying to tell me and teach me right from a little kid didn't make sense at all. Yet they'd sit and talk with me and ask me things, and I was completely coherent, if not way above everybody else. But then when it came to reading, writing, arithmetic, and the average school curriculum, that was like, it was written in Swahili to me. And sorry if you're from wherever Swahili is from, Africa, sorry. Not meaning that in a bad way. It was a complete foreign language, and I just went, this doesn't make sense. And my brain was going too fast, and I couldn't understand anything they were trying to teach me. So they just said, you're naughty, because we know you're intelligent and we know you're clever because you articulate very well, actually better than most people in the class, but yet how they were trying to teach me was completely wrong. So I had a terrible, terrible journey through my schooling years.
How did you survive it?
I became more and more clever at disguising it because I didn't want anyone to think I was stupid or dumb, because I was like, well, I understand everything you're saying, but putting it into the context you're trying to teach me and doesn't make sense at all. And how to read when words are back to front. And if someone reads to me and I take in audibly, I was always the top of the class. And yet they were like, well, you're just not trying hard enough, you're being naughty. So I just thought, maybe I am really naughty. Maybe I'm actually stupid and no one's brave enough to tell me, or they're just being polite. So I started to hide behind it.
Yeah.
And I managed to get all the way through to, this is going back into the old maths, standard 3, standard 4. The Meester group, I went to LUDSL public school. And they used to group us all together. And I was quite sick as a child. So I started school late, ended up in a class of people my age, but I was in the year below. My birthday is December, so it was kind of a combination of two things. And they crammed like about 50 of us in a room, one teacher. And so that was great. I could hide. But I couldn't really read and write. And they said to me, we're going to do a test on you because we think that you're being disruptive and that you're not learning because you're not in the right group of people. So they did an IQ test on me. And I was in standard 3 and the standard 4 kids were going off to intermediate after the school holidays, and it was my birthday, I remember it, and they did this test on me, and I had the highest IQ in the school. And they said, we figured out why you're naughty and you're not learning properly. You're with the wrong people. So they made me skip a year.
Amazing.
So they accelerated me through, and I'm just like, whatever. I just wanted to get out of that situation as quick as possible.
Yeah, I bet you did.
And then, but from intermediate and college, it got harder to hide.
Yeah.
And it got worse and worse, and I got told more and more that I was naughty. Practical things and things that required anything to do with verbal learning by audio, or watching. I'd cane it, or hands-on things, science, metalwork, woodwork, anything like that.
Anything kinesthetic.
Yeah, I was really, really great at. But then when it came to, because I'd managed to hide and use my clever, quick thinking mind to outsmart the teachers, I really couldn't read or write well at all. Probably the equivalent of a 7-year-old when I got expelled from school on my 15th birthday in the 4th form, which was not my proudest moment. But again, they just kept testing me and saying, your IQ is up here, you're just disruptive, you pretend you can't do it, you're just not applying yourself, we don't want you here anymore, and sent me packing.
Oh my goodness. So all this time you were using your incredibly intellectual mind to mask. And how did that make you feel as a 15-year-old when you were booted out of school unceremoniously, which, by the way, they did to Einstein when he was 12?
Well, I think they probably wanted to get rid of me at 12 too. But my family had disbanded then too. Long story, I ended up on my own at that age.
Wow.
And everyone just knew that I'd be okay in the family because, they're like, I was probably my mum's mum by then. My mum had a breakdown.
So you were
moving away.
You ended up in that parentifying model.
Yeah, and it wasn't till so triple back somersault out of the stool. I was naughty, by the way. Hands up to confession time. I was naughty, and I probably deserved to be pushed out. But I was just, and there was no support there. Nobody came along and taught you if you were dyslexic or if you had ADHD. There was no support teachers. There was no diagnosis. This was back in the day where they just went, you're naughty, get out. So I got out and I started working. My first job was pumping petrol, and that wasn't very glamorous at all, although I did wear heels and lipstick and a pair of overalls. And I had a big chat to myself, and I thought, well, it's really hard to earn money. This is a hard job. It's very unglamorous. I had to pay rent, feed myself. I was 15 years old. I thought, I'll go and seek my fortune and get the hell out of Dodge. And I moved to Australia on my own. So couldn't get a job over there, funnily enough. Ended up working in a very, very famous Scottish restaurant, otherwise known as McDonald's. So my journey begins of arriving as a new immigrant in Australia who can't really read or write, but has a very high IQ and is very smart, but can outsmart people and talk her way in and out of all sorts of situations. So I start my job at McDonald's, and the first part of my job there was scraping the guts out of the back of chicken. I don't know why McDonald's had chicken back then, but they used to have like pieces of chicken like KFC. It was revolting. And one day someone called in sick and they said, Middleton, you're on the front desk. I'm like, crikey, I'd gone from like seaming the buns for the fillet of fish and stroking the guts out of the back of the chicken. And then, boom, I'm out the front. And I thought, God, I hope no one from New Zealand sees me working at McDonald's. How glamorous is this? But then I thought, crikey, that's right. I'm thick and I can't really read and write properly. How am I going to do this? This is a situation I can't talk my way in and out of because I've never done it before. And I kind of almost had a panic attack. And then the person took me over to the cash register and everything was pictures. And I looked at it and I went,
amazing.
Okay. So that day I broke the record for the largest McDonald's in the Southern Hemisphere. The amount of burgers and customers served in a lunch hour. They couldn't believe it because it was just like, oh. And what I didn't know then is I have kind of like a bit of a photographic memory. So I could serve like 3 or 4 people at once, push all the pictures, get the burgers, slide along on all the grease on the floor. And they were like, and then so that was me permanently there. I was the burger queen.
I won burger queen.
I thought I won the crew member of the year, and they put this gigantic billboard thing up outside the front. I was really embarrassed because I didn't want anyone to know I worked at McDonald's, but a girl had to pay her rent. Yeah. So I'm like, well, maybe I'm not sick. I'm just wired differently. So I started to think, hey, okay, this isn't too bad, but I don't want to work at McDonald's forever. This is not my beautiful life. This is not my beautiful job. So I came back to New Zealand. By that stage, Mum had got involved with some nuns. We're not religious, but my mother was one of the kindest, most generous, loveliest people you've ever met. By this stage, I'm about 17, 18 years old. And Mum was running a halfway house for these nuns, Vincent House. And the nun was called Sister Ailey. And she said to me, your mother thinks you might be dyslexic and you might have ADHD. I said, I don't even know what those are, but probably. And I said, but so, I'm just getting on with life. And she said, I think I can help you. I've helped many people.
Interesting.
In another country, I think it was either the US or the UK. She said, I helped a lot of children and we developed a program. So, lo and behold, this nun took me on a little journey as to go around to her tiny little flat, and she taught me how to read and write properly and everything, and kind of didn't cure me, but made everything make sense and taught me in a short space of time. And I remember getting my first book. It was Wilbur Smith. And I read this big novel, and ever since then I haven't stopped.
Yeah.
And she said to me, your brain is bigger, faster, and more powerful than most people will give you credit for because you're wired differently. Your wires, she gave it an analogy, and that's how I imagine it when I think of it. The wires that are plugged in for most people's brains in everyday life are plugged in here. And yours have got a couple that go over here. So it gives you the ability to have a superpower in some instances. And you need to move towards that and direct everything you do from now on in and think like that. Use it as a superpower, not a disadvantage. She said to me, and this has stuck with me the whole time, she said, what you find really, really hard to do, other people find very easy, but what they find really, really hard to do is so easy for you.
Yeah.
So that's the wiring change. That's what was a pivotal time in my life that really made me think, okay, how can I use this to my advantage? Now I know I'm not stupid. And the dyslexia on top of that had made it harder to deal with. And yeah, so from then on in, I started to try and tame the beast and make it work for me, not be scared of what it was and think that it's something bad.
Thank you so much for sharing that powerful story, because this whole podcast series is all about demystifying it and giving messages of hope to those who don't understand what they're confronted by, either because their child's been diagnosed and they recognize that they've got this diagnosis too, or because they want to help their child with that diagnosis, or because they've been masking their own diagnosis for years. I had mine for 26 years, and I didn't find out until my son was diagnosed when he was 8 years old. So for me, I thought, gosh, this is a career limiting move. I can't talk about it. I've really got to understand it. And on the journey trying to help him figure out how his brain worked, I realized it was a brain architecture difference. And that meant that navigating a neurotypically designed education system was a huge challenge for him. But I knew he was bright, much like you. You were bright, but had to navigate it and mask it so differently, but then didn't really find out until that nun, God bless her.
Yeah. See, she really did help me to harness it and use it as what I call my superpower. And, the frustrating thing, and back then it was just as dyslexia they were working on then. I didn't get diagnosed with the ADHD again till I was in my 40s because of all of the things that if you don't have the super hyper activeness with it, then that never got diagnosed or looked at. The speeding brain, the anxiety, the inability to feel comfortable in your own skin, sitting still sometimes.
Yeah.
And, boys tended to be, back when I was growing up, more apparent to show the symptoms, and girls were always told to sit still and be quiet. So, that was hard. That was really hard.
Really hard. I remember tripping up boys on the mat the first day of school. A, because I had two older brothers and that's what you did. But B, I just couldn't sit still.
No.
I was in the dog box already. So what happened next? So once you started to learn to read and write?
Well, the thing is, I had basic skills, but then I ended up learning how to overcome my disability of that. And my life just went like that. I went and I traveled around the world, and I've had a very, very successful journey of starting owning, building 4 of my own businesses and being really successful at that. By backing myself and using my what I sometimes call my crazy mind, because sometimes it can feel a bit crazy in there, and it can be quite exhausting being me for some other people as well. But yeah, so I harnessed it and used it, and it worked, and I'm like, crikey, that was amazing. So I've won Entrepreneur Award for New Zealand from a woman who started what do you call it? An organisation, a worldwide organisation to recognise people in an industry that was under-recognised. And she started the Best Foundation. It's a woman who invented the Redken hair care product, and Paula was her name. And I submitted a proposal for that and won for New Zealand an Entrepreneur Award from her in California University, which was, I thought, quite ironic considering I got kicked out of a really bad school, and my education ended quite soon. But I took the award beautifully. They flew me to Spain. She owned actually Elvis Presley's mansion in California.
Oh.
So we had the most amazing dinner party in Elvis's garden, and she flew in the top Elvis impersonator from Vegas. And so nearly Elvis, sang to us and entertained us in his own backyard. And that was, I'll never forget that. And I came home with the first big, humongous recognition that, hey, I'm actually bloody good at what I do. And it was, another defining moment where I thought, wow, what else can I do? The things that come along with having ADHD and that I call it slightly neurospicy mind, is there's a lot of things you've got to wrestle with every day. Personally, and this is where you've asked me to share some stuff. It's hard to shut it up. The internal, it just goes, and it's really exhausting sometimes. So learning to navigate that and not self-medicate it, because, it's easy to want to have a glass of wine because that's one of the only things I found in life that just brings everything down for people too. Yeah. Never been an alcoholic. Love a drink, but know that, again, that is not the right way to medicate an ADHD mind.
It's not as that. And it's really interesting that you talk about soothers, because mine wasn't so much alcohol, although I was always and still am fond of a drink. It was retail therapy. Oh, yeah. Which is a really difficult thing to deal with when you look so great. An alcoholic doesn't look so good. A drug addict doesn't look so good, but a retail therapy addict, they generally turn up looking pretty well presented.
It's funny because you do tend to put, kind of try and medicate yourself into calming the F down, part of the pun. Yeah. And so I used to use alcohol in small amounts, just to try and feel normal after a lot of energy and achieving a lot. Because I don't know about you, but I seem to be able to achieve in a day what most people would take 2 or 3 weeks to do. And
can't slow anything down.
Speed I would go at. So mine wasn't retail therapy. I was a workaholic, and I have been a workaholic. And you know what? That gives you incredible results and terrible, terrible diseases. Yes. Shingles, burnout, you name it. Yeah. Been there, done that.
And that's the dopamine of work, of performance. It's actually very, very real. Dopamine is so addictive.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's also when your brain won't stop or goes faster in some areas than other people, you sometimes it's actually, you want to keep it in that mode because it's easier to control it, because you do try and control it. I liken it to those ladies that put the plates on the end of the poles and start spinning them. And I love getting my plates up, and the more plates I've got spinning all around me, the more excited and adrenalized I am, and the more I want to put up there, until all of a sudden I look around me imaginatively and go, holy hell, this is all going to come crashing down soon. But it's kind of like a bit of an adrenaline junkie for harnessing it in some way. So I didn't become an alcoholic or a drug addict. I became a workaholic, and that gave me great success, but it also cost me a lot as well.
Yeah. If you had some advice for your younger self from what you know now, what would that be?
Oh, I think I was lucky because I was so strong and darn dogged determined. If I had had better support and cushions around me, my life would have been easier, but maybe I wouldn't have achieved as much. So, you can't choose the path that your upbringing takes you, and I don't blame my parents for anything like that, because walk a mile in their shoes, could I have done better for what they'd had to face and what they were going through? And, my father, this is a hereditary superpower, that he was completely the most intelligent and the most stupidest person rolled in one. And he was completely and utterly amazing and out of control, all rolled together. But again, no diagnosis. But it is hereditary, so...
Yeah, it is. It is, yeah.
In answer to your question, what would I tell myself? If I knew now back then, what's the saying? If I knew back then what I know now, I probably would have been unstoppable. I would have just harnessed it like the bucking bronco that it was, tamed it, and rode it as far as I could. But I didn't. So I wrestled with it because I didn't want to feel like that. I didn't want to be different. I didn't want to be stupid. I didn't want to be out of control. I didn't want to be too much. But yeah, so I would just say, hey, capture that horse, tame it and ride it as fast as you can and enjoy the ride because it's your special horse.
It is a superpower, like you say. And it's a funny word, that, isn't it? Because we kind of consider that term superpower to be aligned to cartoon characters. But there's a model in the States called twice exceptional where they consider people who are neurodiverse to have twice exceptionality. So we're exceptionally good at one thing and exceptionally bad at another. And what we know now is when you know what your exceptionally good thing is, you can scaffold off that and achieve anything. So that's one of the things that I spent a lot of time researching when I got my son's diagnosis. I really just masked my own because I'd done that all my life. So it just seemed really natural to do that. And I just carried on masking it for years and years and years until I was confronted by the reality of the fact that wasn't working very well for me. And I needed to unpack it and understand it better. I didn't have that lovely nun that you had, but I could read and write. Only just. It was enough to get by.
Yeah.
And I figured out, though, that I have really good verbal reasoning. And that was my superpower. And I used that in every situation I was in. And once I got into the workforce, of course, that became a strength. Being able to reason my way through anything.
Or you could, like me, talk yourself in and out of trouble, in and out of opportunities, depending on whether it was the trouble came or the opportunity. But it is really, it's an interesting concept because I think nowadays more and more people are putting their hand up with saying, hey, I'm a bit neurodiverse, I'm ADHD or some other label. And I think, well, I think normality just was made up by a certain set of people at a certain time that fitted in with a curriculum. And I think that everybody's a little bit something, and some people are more than others. I know personally for myself that the way that my brain is rewired differently from the average bear in the street has been an absolute massive advantage to me once I figured out what it was. So one of the things that I figured out being in business for myself is that the things that I'm really bad at take me so long to do. They're so frustrating. They're so draining. So hard for other people to do.
Yeah, same.
And all of that, I write things that look like cave drawings. And I have always had a PA or an office manager, and they were my godsend. And they turned everything I could say beautifully verbally and present in a way that was just, everyone went, hey. And then they'd say, right, write it down. And then I'd be like, oh, God. And then this ridiculously bad document that came from it was just a joke. And I'm like, no, I need somebody that just turns my brilliance into a written format instead of my verbal brilliance turning into a written pile of shit. So I have for years and years and years always had that. Now I have started none of my business again, which was a business I had in 2008. So it's being reborn at the beginning of this year. It's meant to be my kind of lifestyle, semi-retirement type of business. But what I've discovered is I'm the only person in my business. I'm a business coach, mentor, and a bit of a guru around small business New Zealand, helping people be better in their business, kind of like a second CEO. But I don't have a PA, office manager, person to turn my gobbledygook, the written versions, into beautiful, legible, readable, amazing things anymore. But I've discovered AI.
Yes, isn't it great?
AI,
all the things that we don't want to do.
AI is that. And so that saves me about $80,000 a year. Thank you, ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And I've learned to make my own GPTs and to narrow it down and make it, you do this and you do that. I say please and thank you to it. Barney is my one. and he has a name, and I'm very kind to him.
And so you trained Barney, and you just give him the prompts. He does it all.
He does it. And sometimes he's dumb. I treat him like, well, he's not dumb. Sorry, Barney. I'm very polite to Barney because one day when they want to kill us all off, they will spare me because I'm kind. That's my reasoning. But yeah, I've learned to use it because it actually thinks in a logical way that if I had a intern straight out of school that was really, really clever, but needed to be kept on track all the time, that's how I treat my AI, my Barney, and I have another one called Arrow. He's not as well organised as Barney, but yeah, so they've been an absolute game changer. If I had had AI years ago, okay.
I really do think that AI brings people whose brains are architected differently. You know, a whole set of tools that make life easier.
Well, I've made Barney understand my shortcomings, and he knows, and he fixes the bits that I do wrong, and I use a lot of verbal communication with him. I do type now. I've never done typing. The typing teacher, before I got sent away from the school, kicked out, expelled, said to me I was the most frustrating person she'd ever tried to teach typing, and not to bother even coming in the class, just to sit out there. And so I just actually wandered around the school. This was a long time ago, people, having a cigarette. Don't smoke anymore. But that was like, yeah, no one really cared what you did as long as you didn't interrupt them. So I could never type. And what I've figured out now, the typing that I do, I've got really fast at. And I type a whole lot of things for Barney, or Aaron, I knew Barney. And then I'm going along like that. And then I just copy and paste it straight in there. And I didn't realise how dyslexic I really was, because a lot of it's all backwards and done the wrong way. But Barney doesn't care. He gets it completely.
And just completely untangles it for you.
Just completely. Because all the right characters and all the right words are there, but they're just spelt wrong and in a bit of a jumble, but it is mind.
I've been learning AI as I've been developing my marketing roadmap and plan, and having worked for years, always loving marketing, but it being a complete and utter dark art and not understanding it. And what I've discovered is AI can actually reflect back to you your own core. It actually listens to you and can tell you where your own values lie. And it actually is quite good at that when you give it the right prompts.
For a neurospicy person, the mundane, mainstream things that you have to do, like getting grammar and spelling correct, my brain just can't. It's already gone 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps, 4 steps ahead. So yeah, even for the poor PAs and people that have worked with me over the years, and if you've ever listened to it, you know who you are, they sometimes would then try and interpret what I was trying to produce, and there was a lot of backwards and forwards. But once you get the right prompts and you train and check the AI with the right prompts, it understands you. But I do treat it like a disobedient graduate, and I check everything it does.
You do have to.
Yes.
You can't bank it. You literally have to go through everything with a fine-tooth comb.
But it is the piece of our brain. May I include you in
Absolutely
in my neuro awareness?
Yeah.
So Barney for me is the piece of my brain that the wires aren't in enough to make it work properly because it's busy over here. So that to me, I'm like, wow.
I love that you've called it Barney, by the way, because that's the part of my brain that I have Barney with. I literally get really frustrated with that part of my brain because I know I can do it. It's just that the minute I try to slow down, the fog comes. And so I love working fast. And I remember when I did my master's and I'd get a case study, and most people spent 3 months writing their case study. I could not do that, but I could do it in 3 days. And so I just hid that I was doing that. I couldn't tell anyone I was doing that because they were absolutely horrified. But I was getting A pluses, and I knew what I was talking about. I still didn't believe that I knew. It wasn't until I did a master's and I walked out with that qualification and went, I'm not done.
Yeah. Because if you have to apply yourself 4 hours a day to studying, 4 hours a day to this, or 10 hours a day, my naughty little neurospicy part of me would want to kill the other part of me. And I just couldn't, it would just be, get me out of here. It would be terrible. So, yeah, to get the results that you need to do, you need to be kind of like a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
And I spent years hiding inside my head going, I'm only faking this. I just fake it till you make it. And it wasn't till I've won 7 business awards and that entrepreneur award. I've had, 7-figure companies. I've started them from nothing. I've saved them from other ones from demise. I've helped a lot of other people with their own businesses, like their second CEO. And I've got this ability, and I don't know where it came from, and I can only put it down to being the neurospiciness in my mind, is I can see things like from a helicopter point of view, and I can see things that other people can't see. I thought I was thick as 2 short planks and couldn't read or write properly till I was about 18 or 19 years old, but yet I could solve problems and I could make things out of nothing, and I could basically achieve things that other people attempted, puzzles or weird things like that. And that's how I got through the IQ tests, because I don't know if you've ever done most IQ tests. They're not there where you write an essay for 300 friggin' words. It's match up all these little triangles with those squares and put that together and move that and multi-choice. Well, it's just reason to me, but yeah, I can get all of those correct. But then if you told me to write it down and tell a story about it on a piece of paper, then I'd get a D. So it's just different. But if you're a young person out there, and someone's told you that you're neuro interested or diverse or spicy or ADHD or giving you some type of label, and you think it's a disadvantage, my advice to you, I would have a really, really hard, serious talk with yourself and say, I can either take what they say and let it be a disability for my life and my journey and go woe is me and end up just feeling frustrated all the time. Or you can actually go, you know what? I'm going to harness this. Like I said, I'm going to tame it. I'm going to find out what I'm really good at, and I'm going to do more of that and less of that. What you're not good at is what you're not good at. It's like trying to become a professional golfer. If you're shit at golf, don't do it. But if you're amazing at tennis and bad at golf, become the best tennis player in the world. Stop trying to be something that you're never going to be. Try and be what that gift, as they call it. They handed out a pamphlet at a seminar I went to years later about dyslexia and ADHD, and said, you've been given a gift. I'm like, well, crikey, it hasn't bloody arrived. Or can I return it? Because it wasn't the type of gift you really wanted, was it?
No.
And that was, I got that pamphlet, I'm remembering now. I used to go and talk at some low decile schools and gap courses where people find themselves where I would have been if I hadn't got the extremely glamorous job of pumping gas and cooking burgers and scraping guts out of chicken. I would have found myself in a gap course, too young to get the dole, and unable to get work. So I'd go and talk to these groups about the gift and try and inspire them and say, hey, look, I had a really, really bad time. I had a hard upbringing. I had a terrible experience at school. But look, I've owned this many businesses. I've made money. I've traveled the world. I've done this and I've done that because I learnt to do things differently and use my advantages to be super advantages. And that's where I found the pamphlet. Because people sit in that little circle of absolute despair with nowhere to go, and there's just not a lot of help for them.
No, and it's really interesting when you're trying to navigate all of the sea of information when you get a diagnosis, because there's so much out there. I was trying to navigate it for my son, and the medical experts said it was a disability, and the thought leaders, but now the neuroscientists are telling us it's a brain architecture difference. And when you look at the captains of industry who are all neurodiverse, you've got to see that it's a brain architecture difference. However, what is the difference between those people like yourself that made it through, not without having to pay a high price, I might add. You've had to learn a lot the hard way. And those that have ended up really struggling. I remember running a program with recovering P addicts, and they'd been dealers, and they'd come out of the prison system. And I remember meeting them for the first time, and they'd one look at me and they'd go, "Oh, what's that white middle-aged woman going to tell us?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Did you have trouble concentrating at school?" And they all started to look at me like, "Yeah, yeah." And did you have difficulty not playing up because it made you feel a little bit more alive and alert? And then we realised that they were all ADHD. And of course they liked meth because it made them feel more alive and alert. And actually they were great negotiators and salespeople because they built successful sales businesses. And now they were looking at how they could reinvest themselves. Yes.
Entrepreneur.
They hacked the system. But they were all brought up in the world of abnormal rearing. So probably their parents, because we know it's so genetic, struggled, and we can't judge them because they were brought up in the world of abnormal rearing. And so we've got this thing where what is it that happens to those who become successful and those who don't? And it is a really interesting thing. Brain architecture is unique. And you and I, we've got different journeys again, and we had different presentations. Yours turned up so young. Mine did, but I just hid it. I had it for years and did so. But I did learn to read and write. And why I did that, it would be slightly different architecture to yours. I'm certainly not as genius as you are, but I love what
we had a lot of other things. And that's the thing. Everybody's different. If we were all the same, what a boring world it would be.
Wouldn't it be? Wouldn't it?
And and so whoever invented normality and the design of what a normal person's brain is meant to be, how it thinks, how it functions, how it acts, that's how their brain worked. So if it happened to be me back then writing that, I'm sure the school curriculum would have been way more crazy and a little bit more interesting.
Well, it's so interesting because we know that the pedagogy of learning, that the developers of the school curriculum, they look for the people who fit in the norm of the bell curve.
Yeah.
And back in the day that you and I were at school, I'm sweeping you into the same category as me. I think I was at school a little bit earlier than you. We
probably did a lot.
We didn't fit into the norm of the bell curve at all. And so we kind of got left out on the sides, and we learned a bit, but not enough. And then we came into the world thinking that we weren't that smart. And it took us other experiences to realize that we were smart, because like you, the minute I got into the workforce, I realized that I could use my verbal reasoning and actually I could achieve a great deal.
Well, that's it. And I think another thing that people like us do is I became the entertainer. I became the class clown, because that was a way that I could hide a lot of things. I had a lot of friends follow me, come and be naughty with me, come and have fun, because a lot of the time when your mind is so busy, you want to have fun, you need a distraction.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's hand on heart, I didn't go down that track, but a lot of people go down the drugs and alcohol track, or mine was workaholism, boring, but financially better. Although I'm starting to think the tax-free things those guys had going on at the prison might have been so to go. I might want to cut that bit from the podcast. But yeah, so it's funny, everybody has their own journey and everybody's different.
Yeah.
And I think there's so many different forms of it and different circumstances that happen to you, therefore grow and wire you in a direction anyway.
That's right.
And determination is what saved me. I was determined to not go down a hole and be a loser from nowhere. And so I dragged myself kicking and screaming. I thought, I don't care, I'll just fake it till I make it. And I did. And yeah, here I am.
Telling your story. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I love so many real moments there where you talked about those critical differences and how your life turned and changed shape. We could talk for hours and there is so much more to unpackage, but we really appreciate you coming on this podcast and sharing a message of hope. And some of the keys, I think that normal is a setting on a washing machine and shouldn't be applied to the human condition at all. But we look for normal, and that's really, I think, neurotypical, isn't it?
And I think normal for a lot of people is safe. And if it wasn't for us neurospicy, unsafe brains, nothing would get invented. No one would have the guts, courage, and determination to do that. It's because we have those thoughts and we have that compulsion. And part of being ADHD is the compulsions you have to achieve and the drive you have, because your mind won't shut the hell up. That is what gives you your success. So, yeah, own it.
Yeah.
Own it and use it to your advantage, because you either got that or a lifetime of medication and misery. So,
did you ever try medication on that note?
Yes, I did.
And how did it affect you?
Oh, I hated it. Some people love it. It turned me into not me. And it didn't, it just dumbed me down. And I just thought, well, I either learn other ways to dumb me down, and exercise, sleep, diet, limited amount of alcohol, and enough to keep myself busy, but not so much to awaken the beast. Is and it's something I fight with every day, because the compulsions and the amount of drive that comes through this, it's just, you just gotta keep a lid on it, really.
Yeah. I likened it to really always being aware of that part of me that I need to keep the spotlight on, and not mask, actually unmask, actively have it out in the light, so that I see the little girl that wasn't understood, and actually when she's in the light and actually able to be part of who I am, that's my creative part.
Yeah. When you're doing what you're good at and using what works so well, you can achieve immenseness. You really can. If you fight against it and try and normalize it, then that's when the battles come, and that's when the resistance come. And the biggest thing you need to do is sleep. And that is the most important thing. When you have a really full-on million-mile-an-hour brain, it needs a good nanoise. Otherwise, you get fatigued, and then you look for other ways to calm it down. Medication, self-medication, whatever that may be, shopping, other things, because you're just trying to calm it down. But you're doing things the right way and finding what works for you. It's just a bit trial and error, because none of us are the same.
We're all different, and we've all got different keys to help us understand it. But the more of these stories we hear, the more insight we can share, the more keys we help others pick up and unlock their own superpower. Thank you so much. Any closing words for today's podcast?
I would say, don't wear it as a label, wear it as a badge of pride.